and then we go. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's Postgraduate Academy support group meeting. This is going to be a bumper, very interesting, pretty intense, in-depth session today. And we'll be discussing burnout, managing burnout and fatigue. Before we get into the content, let me first remind everyone about the interactiveness of these sessions. We share our thoughts in the chat box, raise our hands if we'd like to ask a question and engage verbally in the conversation. By all means, please use your reaction icons. I love it when someone cheers me on when I speak as a presenter or shares their thoughts as well. We're all part of this community, encouraging each other to grow. Thank you very much. I love seeing those emoticons. See, my face just lights up. Please do continue that as we engage within these conversations. So today we've got a bit of a heavy topic, and I'm sure it's really relevant to everybody here. We've all experienced it. I've just heard that there is no cure for it, but we can try to limit it over time. And I am going to hand over to UKZN's Student Support Services team. We have Vuli Thava here, and she will be introducing the topic, the content, and our very special guest today. So welcome to today's Postgraduate Academy support group meeting. And I'll hand over to Vuli.
Thank you, Lenine, and good afternoon to all our students and attendees. It's always lovely to be on this platform, and I have the wonderful opportunity to introduce our guest speaker that we've been absolutely lucky to actually bring on board this session. So I'm going to introduce you to Shanaz Kaperi-Randere. I'm going to share a brief bio on her so you know who you're talking to and what she's all about. And hopefully when you're engaging with her in the session, you're going to get to know a lot more. So I'd like to take this opportunity to share that Shanaz has worked extensively in the health, education, and community sectors. She qualified as a diagnostic radiographer at Nelson Mandela University and Livingston Hospital in Port Elizabeth. After qualifying, she worked at Garden City Clinic in the X-ray department in Johannesburg, and then she headed up the special unit in theatre. Thereafter, she worked at the Harriet Shezi Pediatric HIV Clinic at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital in Johannesburg, where she developed the psychosocial support program for HIV-positive adolescents. Following which, she worked briefly with prison rape survivors. And following this was her employment at the Moshal Scholarship Program for nearly 9 years, with at least 100 students each year across the University of Pretoria, University of Free State, and University of Witwatersrand. In 2021, she was the head of the medical student program, working with 117 students across 6 universities in the country, as well as 93 medical alumni in hospitals in South Africa. She designed, developed, and implemented the medical student support program for medics from 1st to 6th year. She completed her BA Honours at UNISA, a Master's in International Public Health with the University of Liverpool in the UK, and is currently a PhD candidate in the School of Nursing and Public Health at University of KwaZulu-Natal. And her study focus is on medics and interns' mental health. So I really think that, Shanaz, we actually absolutely lucky to have somebody with such an extensive knowledge, skill set, and experience across the health sector, across community organizations, and dealing with such a diverse range of aspects. And I certainly, and the fact that you're nursing public health makes me even more proud, because that's where I am based. And I think your very topic on mental health really is going to resonate with us today. So Shanaz has been invited to take us through a session on stress, fatigue, and burnout. Certainly, I think aspects that that you connect with very, very clearly right now. I think it's that time of the year, and we're juggling so many different deadlines, roles, and just multiple aspects. And I think it's just a perfect timing. So on that note, Shana, also want to say welcome to you. And at the outset, thank you for coming on board the PGA program with us. And we're really thrilled to have you with us. And I hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lenine and Wooly. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm going to state this disclaimer up front. I'm nowhere near a professional on the topic, because there's always something to learn. Something new crops up. Somebody brings in a new dimension. So what I'm hoping to do today is share what I do know, but more importantly is to hear from our participants what it is that they are interested in, what it is that they're finding that works, so that we can share with each other, learn from each other. And in that way, we are building, that big word, resilience. So thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm really looking forward to this session today. It is quite a heavy topic. And what's really important with topics like this is that we create a safe space where we can connect, where we feel comfortable to share. And of course, you'll be able to share whatever it is that you'd like to share, the extent which you are happy to share. So if I may ask, if you're comfortable to please turn on your videos, you may turn it on and off intermittently, but I struggle when I speak to a blank screen. I really do. And so, yes, I can see Lenine and Holly, but I need to connect with a lot more people for me to be comfortable with this process. So if you're comfortable, no judgment. I'm sitting, in a very, very small space, because the rest of my place is not neat, but I'm sitting in front of a wall. So please don't feel embarrassed by your background. So I'm going to share my presentation now with everybody. Waiting for it to come up. Okay, so today's session is going to be, let me just go back. There we go. So today's session is about managing stress, burnout, and fatigue. And there's no specific order to the way we will discuss it. It will just depend on how the discussion emerges and how it evolves. But we will address all of these topics and concepts in today's session. So what I'd like is for us to get to know each other a little better. And so if I can ask all of you to go to menti.com, you can type this in on your phones. And once you get there, you'll be asked to type in a PIN. And this will be your PIN. So I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. If everybody can go to menti.com and type in the code 67562232. That's also up in the chat.
I love Menti so much. It's a good way to share information anonymously as well. Of those awkward questions you get and nobody knows it's you.
Yeah, and it's anonymous, right? Okay, so let me share my screen again. Okay, there we go. So let's see. Yeah, what is your degree? Whether it's honors, master's, PhD, what is your profession, and are you in the private or public sector? Obviously, if you're a student, your sector will be non-applicable. Pharmacy, geology. So unfortunately, you're only allowed one response, but that's okay. Postdoc, pharmacy, geology. Oh, geology, how does that fit into the College of Health Sciences? That's interesting. clinical social work. Let's see, we have 10 people, 3 of us or 4 of us, right, Lenine, of staff or team members.
Now, I really like that there's a geologist in the mix over here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I guess that just speaks to the topic, right? It doesn't matter what school or sector you are in. We all have, let's see, we all have exposure to the topic. All right, so let's go to the next.
So we also have a PhD dentistry, and I think Yanela might not have been able to get in on the chat, but so she on menti.com. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So next question. Do you have any specific question relating to today's topic? So if you can just type that up. If you don't have, that's absolutely fine. But I just thought if you came to the session today, there must be something that you want to know or that you're experiencing. So please let me know. That will help to guide the discussion as well. Tips to avoid burnout, prevention, signs you need help, stress reduction. Okay, thank you. All right, so we will be discussing all of these. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, coping. And if I can ask Lenine or Willie to just keep an eye on the chat for me if anything does come through there. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I've noted. Let me just take a picture of this so I can keep a note of the questions. Close the one, open the other. Okay, so I think let's get started in terms of what we're going to be discussing today. Stress, of course, exhaustion and burnout. So let's quickly go to the chat. When we talk about stress, what comes to mind? What are the terms or what you've heard or what you feel when we talk about, when you hear the word stress? What comes up? Okay. Yes. Okay. When you hear the word exhaustion, what comes to mind? Yep. Yep. Interesting. Emotional pain. Right. And when we talk about burnout, or when you hear burnout, what comes to mind? Okay. Great. All right. As more ideas come to mind, you can just pop it in the chat box. So let's stop there. So let me give you, so the definitions I'm giving you aren't exact definitions. They are a combination of definitions and ideas. A lot of it comes from the World Health Organization. Some of it comes from research. Some of it comes from people who are in the know. So let's go through some of what we know. Sorry. All right, so what is stress? So the World Health Organization, it's for me, that definition is so broad. It's a state of worry or tension. And stress is really, can be either chronic or it can be acute. So something immediately or something specific can bring it on. So for example, an exam, it's a specific in the future event. And sometimes what happens is, especially with the acute stress, once the situation is no longer available, our stress levels will decrease and we're back to our normal state of being. So with stress, sometimes we can feel like we're not in control, we can't manage. And again, some of you said pressure, anxiety, overwhelming. Those are all the feelings that we experience when we're going through stress. We'll talk a lot more about that. Okay. What is fatigue or exhaustion? And I said fatigue or exhaustion because that's very different to being tired. Fatigue and exhaustion, as you said, anxiety, there's pressure, there's emotional pain, there's that feeling of tiredness, drain, not feeling like you're productive, and that's that feeling where I can't do the things that I'm expected to do daily. So it's more than just, if I go to bed, I'll feel better if I could have a good night's sleep. That's just being tired. So for example, if you ran a marathon, you might need a few days for you to just relax, sleep, do other things that are fulfilling or meaningful for you in terms of your person. But fatigue and exhaustion doesn't just go away when you have a good night's sleep. So it's a lot more than that. And then what is burnout? So burnout, there's so much controversy around burnout. And also the fact that it states that it's an occupational phenomenon, that is also contentious, because now people are saying, well, not people, the researchers, the activists, the proponents of mental health, practitioners are saying, well, does burnout only occur as part of the workplace? So it's a phenomenon, though, that we all experience, and it's often been described as a syndrome rather than a once-off one thing that we experience. So the other important thing with burnout is that it shares so much in common with depression. So for those who want a clear distinction of burnout, because what they're finding is it's very hard to measure and quantify burnout because of the close connection with depression. And so it's there are two schools of thought: does burnout lead to depression, or does depression lead to burnout? And there are just so many of these discussions happening. But the important thing that we need to understand is that we are all, most of us are experiencing burnout. What is also really important is it's associated with chronic levels of work-related stress. And again, I'm saying work-related, I'm going with what is out there. Two important things that define burnout is the feeling of exhaustion, that fatigue, that intense tiredness, that feeling of I can't continue, and the mental distancing. So the mental distancing is that feeling of I'm disconnecting. I'm feeling that cynicism where I'm not engaging, I'm not finding value and pleasure in what we do. And then if we have time, and I'm hoping, because this is important, it doesn't help us to know all of this when we don't actually know how to deal with it. So I think let's open the discussion. I'm going to stop sharing. Let's go to our participants and let's see what do you make of your situation at the moment? What is it that you feel is warranting this discussion? What brings you here today? So you've talked about, and you've given me some ideas, the coping, how to deal with it, how to prevent it. But let's see if we can get that. Oh, okay. So before we do that, let's just see if we can just create a feeling of trust or a feeling of being familiar with each other. So if each of you can use in the reactions, let me just see what is available. Okay. So if each of you can just place an emoji or choose an emoji that explains or suggests how you are feeling right now. Yonela, Shimona, Batobelling.
Could I just say, if
Arvida.
anybody would like to communicate anonymously, that's fine as well. You can just send me a private message and I'm happy to relay it to the community on your behalf.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a few, and I'm just hoping that all of you know where those reactions are, right? It's at the bottom of your screen under reactions, and you click on that emoji, and up comes the emoticons that you. Elliot, your hand is raised.
No, it was by mistake.
Okay. All right. Maybe you were waving at me, or you intended to wave at me. That's fine. All right, so a lot of varied experiences, and maybe, let's see, Lenine, do you want to just give us an idea of why?
Okay, why I shouted? Can I first say I'm disturbed, but I'm also very glad that there were other people shouting. Like we had the same emoji. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. So I'm here today because I have a unique challenge. I've had quite a bit of a life change recently over the past 2 months, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure trying to produce, trying to make sure my students are producing, trying to work remotely in different cities, just trying to be at the top of my game all the time and pushing that envelope constantly to remain relevant. That's a lot to deal with.
That's really great. That's really great. And I'll tell you why it's so good, because if we can pinpoint what it is we are feeling, and oftentimes we don't go into that self-awareness mode where we say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. It's okay. So is there anything beneath that? So you've really pinpointed that you can actually ascribe what you're feeling to a specific situation. And that situation might not be a specific moment in time. Yours is over a protracted period of time. So, well, protracted 2 months. So thank you for that, Lenine. Appreciate that. Would anybody else like to, or maybe I'll go. So I had a party emoji. And for me, it's about the excitement of learning from you and also sharing what I know. So as I was telling Lenine, while we were discussing, my motto every day is, what am I going to learn today? And that's what I wake up, and that's my excitement for the day. So great. So who else would like to share why they chose the emoji that they did? You don't have to, or you can type it in the chat box, or you can say what it is that you're thinking and feeling. Okay.
Well, I really like the concept of what you just mentioned now about being aware of why you are feeling the way you are feeling. Sometimes, at least for me, things can feel like, everything's happening at the same time, and being able to tease out where this feeling or that feeling is coming from, in my case through journaling, has been helpful to try and keep from being overwhelmed. So thank you for that piece of advice about awareness.
Okay. All right. So everybody else, if you are okay for us to continue, we will. And so I'm going to touch on the self-awareness and the fact that we are all so busy. We are all being pulled into different directions. We aren't only in the role of a student and a professional. We are family members. We are church members. We are friends, we are colleagues. So those and each one of those roles will expect something from us. So unless we are aware of what it is that we need to do and what we are doing, we are going to be stretched in these different directions, and ultimately we are the ones who are going to be losing our feeling of we are in control of the situation, or I'm able to give as much as I can. And so one of the concepts that often come up is work-life balance. So work-life balance for me is not a problem because it's never been 50-50, in my opinion. But what's a more a healthier way, I think, or a more common sense way of saying is work-life harmony. And what that says to us is that the one doesn't have to compete with the other for time. The two need to work together so that we can then work, we can live, not in a surviving mode, but in a thriving mode. So the other important thing about the work-life harmony is that at different times, the two will be in different proportions. So for example, if it's exam time, the work or the student study aspect will be prominent. And your life or fun or social aspect will be slightly minimized, although it shouldn't be 100, shouldn't be 100% of the work and 0 of the play. It should be a combination of the two. When it's recess time or you're on vacation or it's the weekend, that might shift depending on what it is what your expectations are for that time. So that's important, is that has to be there. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I mean, we all know that. So we can't be constantly giving to one aspect of our life while not receiving or not filling our cup. So that is really important. So it also talks about these conditions or states of fatigue, stress. From Shimona, I'm beginning my PhD journey. Just seeing it. Sorry, I'm just going to read. Cool, absolutely wonderful. And that's exactly what we need to talk about. Because yes, there are sorry, I got a bit sidetracked there. What was I talking about? Wellness, right? So I'll get into wellness, but I think it's so important that we address Shimona's point there. Is there are certain things that we must do in terms of our work, and then there are certain things that we need to do for ourselves, and sometimes it can be a requirement of our job, or to progress, or to move to a different program or career change, where there are things that we want to do that will enhance our ability and enhance our sense of purpose and well-being. So it's really important that we do that. But yes, the trick is, how do we acknowledge our needs? How do we appreciate that there are things that we would like to do that will enhance our well-being? And how do we manage ourselves in a state of wellness? So those are the kinds of things that we always need to be having in mind. And with that comes the idea of, how do we prioritize? And so the how you prioritize is going to be very personal and very individualized. And that would sometimes mean speaking to, for example, a counselor, a coach, a mentor, somebody in your faculty or department, or a friend, or a family member. We have so many resources that we can tap into of people who are really functional and who manage their mental health and overall well-being. So I'm not saying that those of us who are stressed and are exhausted are not functional. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, there's so many of us who are functional, even though we are so stressed within those domains. So thank you, Shimona, for that. And then, of course, like I said, it's not okay to just have information about what it is that we are struggling with if we don't have a strategy or a plan in place. So one of the important things with managing our well-being is that feeling of, I'm in control, I have a sense of control, I know how to get what I want. And part of our wellness is actually about goal setting. And goal setting isn't just about career goals. It isn't just about what I want at the end of this year in terms of my academics. Goal setting is every aspect in your life. So there should be the career path, there should be your employment path, and there should be your personal path. So various aspects that make us up as a human being need to be satisfied. That's the holistic view of how we are going to be able to deal with our mental health. So are there any other contributions, any questions at this stage before I continue? I realize that I'm just talking, and guys, if you let me, I will continue talking the whole day. So, Willie, is there anything on your side that you feel, was on point, needed a little more clarification before I continue?
No, I think it's absolutely wonderful. I think all of us who's here are just, have probably experienced all of these concepts at some point in our life. And right now we might be feeling all three of them, juggling so many and different
Yes.
roles, the deadlines and that we face coming to this part of the year. Yeah, I think it's been spot on, and I think we will get more out of what our students are on this platform are experiencing right now for us to be
Yeah.
able to interpret
Yeah.
it further.
Yeah, and that's really what I'd like to hear, because this isn't about me or Wole or Lenine. This is about you guys who are in this. So maybe just as a little bit of a background. So my my master's and now my PhD journey, I've both been in the space where I worked full-time and I was a full-time parent. At one stage I was married. So it was really difficult. So I've lived through these experiences, the exhaustion, the fatigue, the burnout. So it's not something that is just a concept for me. It is something that I've had to deal with. And one of the concepts that's really important along this journey that we are all on is resilience. So resilience is one of those concepts that's it's quite complex, actually. It's not a simple concept, and it's something that we struggle to grasp. What is resilience? For some of us, it's being able to get over something. For some of us, it's being able to leave something behind. For some of us, I mean, there are various iterations of what resilience is, and there's actually no one definition of resilience. But what is important is in our mental health, resilience is vital. And if I can just give you a few ideas about what resilience is. So resilience is about, it's not about avoiding stress. It's not about avoiding a traumatic experience. It's about how we manage and we cope with that, and how we emerge from that, either in the state that we were before this event, or in a state of, on a better state where we actually grow and develop. So resilience is a process. So it's something that we do all the time. You can never say, right, now I'm resilient. It's an ongoing, lifelong process. It's also not something that's constant. So I can be resilient in terms of failing. So if I fail, I can say, oh, well, okay, let me see, let me assess what happened, let me rectify, let me make sure I don't make the same mistakes, and let me now go and improve. However, when it comes to a relationship that's failed, so for example, if I were to lose one of my very good friends, I would fall apart. I would not be able to cope with that the way I would with failing. And so it's a lifelong process. It's different for everybody. The one important thing, though, is that as you go through life, different experiences will add skills. It will add strengths. It will add abilities. It will add awareness of where it is your strengths and your weaknesses are, what you need to build on. So it's a constant evolving dynamic process. So no person can ever say I've arrived when it comes to resilience. It's an ongoing process. And you don't only learn resilience when things are bad. In fact, when things are bad, you draw on whatever it is you've built in times of resilience. When it was just slightly stressful, when there were acute stressful situations, and with chronic stress. So what happens with resilience, if you are in a difficult or a life-changing or a challenging situation or event, it's not to say that, for example, if I lose somebody close to me, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm going to mourn the loss. I'm going to grieve. I'm going to feel, I'm going to go through the bereavement process. But what resilience will help me is that process does not drag me down. It helps me to emerge from that in a way where I've learned something about myself. I have learned skills for when something similar happens to me. I'm able to lift myself out of that situation. So the thing with resilience is that it's your emotional muscle, the feelings that come with the situation. It's how do I face adversity but come out of that or emerge out of that having learned something and grown and developed from it. It's not about never going through a stressful situation. That is highly unrealistic. We all go through life in different ways at different times. And so building resilience in terms of your fatigue, your exhaustion, your burnout, resilience is about having the skills or being aware of the skills that you need to build resilience. And in order for you to be resilient, there are three factors that need to be present for you to be able to build resilience. So one would be to have a really good support system in place. That can be friends, it can be your academic support, it can be extended family, it can be friends, it can be anybody that you can draw on that can be there for you. It just makes you feel like I'm part of this community, or I feel like I belong, or I'm valued. The other important condition that needs to be present is that you have to have good interpersonal relationships. So you need to be able to connect with people on an interpersonal, on a one-on-one basis. You need to be able to connect. You need to be able to make others feel like you value them. And the third one is that we need to be able to appraise ourselves positively. So three conditions that need to be in place so that we can foster resilience. So in terms of the skills that you need to build resilience, there's a model called the 7 C's model for building resilience, and you can Google that. It's very simple. I can't often remember them all, but it's basically a sense of you need to be competent, and from competent, you can become confident. You need to have a sense of community, so you need to have that feeling of belonging. You need to be able to have a coping mechanism, so you need to be able to cope well. Sorry, I'm just going to look through them. Is there some way? Anyway. If I don't get to it, you can actually just look for the 7 C's model of resilience. Sorry, yes, Lenine?
Sorry, I'm just conscious of the post-COVID lack of interpersonal skills that we're seeing. I mean, I look at throwing my husband under the bus now. I mean, he really enjoys not being out of the house at all. And that can affect, how he engages with people. And I know that he's not alone. He'll probably never see this video. You don't know him. But I guess my point is that more and more we'd find that there are many people who are resistant to or not comfortable engaging with others. How could we then promote resilience in people who have trouble interacting with others?
Good question. Thank you, Lenny. And thank you, Oli, for finding the 7 C's of building resilience. So the thing is, we all have different personalities. And we have the introverts, and we have the extroverts, and we have the ambiverts, and we have extremes of either one. And then we have the middle of the ground where people can flip-flop between the two. And I say flip-flop, I don't mean it as flippantly as I say it. What's important is we need to, if we aren't comfortable with who we are, then we're not going to be building true resilience. So if I'm saying you have to have 10 people, or you have to go out there and speak to somebody once a day, when that isn't how the person is, then that becomes a pressure point. But what we can say is, if somebody is an introvert or appreciates being on their own, I mean, I'm an extrovert, I'm highly sociable, but there are times where I want to be left alone. Elliot, I've noted your raised hand, but there are times where I really just want to be on my own, and I can be very comfortable if that's the space I'm in, and I'm forced to be in a situation where I need to interact with people and not say anything. And I really think that although those 3 conditions need to be present or are essential to be for building resilience, there is no absolute standard. For somebody who doesn't like leaving home, there will be times when they will need to leave home. And the important thing is that they can rise to the occasion when that happens. So in terms of work, for example, if you need to build resilience in terms of taking feedback, whether it's positive or negative, building resilience in a place where the interpersonal connections, interpersonal relationships needs to be important. It can be a relationship with a mentor in the workspace, or it could be a manager, or it could be a colleague. So again, there's no hard and fast rule about what it looks like, but there needs to be an element of good interpersonal relationships. And maybe that's you for your husband. Maybe you are that interpersonal relationship. Maybe it's another family member. Maybe it's a friend. And yes, with COVID has just highlighted for us how we've lost connection with each other. We do not connect. And unfortunately, as technology progresses, it's just going to get worse. So we need to be very aware of the fact that those interpersonal connections actually affect our mental health. And we need to be very focused and intent. There needs to be intent for us to connect with each other. Thanks, Lenine. Elliot?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. What I can say is that I'm stuck with my PhD, but I also want to thank the Postgrad Academy for the support, because I have a sense of control despite all the challenges that have come across. I'm a master's. I have a master's and I'm doing my PhD. My problem is finance. And I was working for another university while registered with the UKZN. So my contract expired. But before the contract expired, I also prepared a new job for myself with the same university. There was a project that I assisted so that it could be up and running. So everything went well with the director of this university, because I was leading a particular aspect of this project. So I was able to help in building up the proposal. So eventually this project was approved by the institution, and I was also required to submit, to fill some forms, to submit my banking details, everything. I thought everything was going well. So I think the problem started, the challenge was that I think the director, because I was also working there, it's something that we were trying to establish. I think a mistake somehow was made, because the director didn't advertise the post. So that is what I had when, after submitting everything, for the post. And then the result was that the HR said, because the university rules were not followed, this post was supposed to be advertised. So I was not able to be employed or to get that post. So that was a big blow for me. And then I said, because while I was still working in this university, I participated in one of the international research. It was a international pilot study. I was in that research study. I was a manager. Also, I participated before getting employed in this university. So, but when I was in this university working there, we were busy publishing papers. So 2 of my papers were published. 2 of the papers were published, and the institution gave me the research rewards for the first paper. And when my contract expired, and when I didn't get the job that we were trying to create, I thought maybe I could use my research rewards to, because the research rewards is just the money that you are given to continue with your studies. I thought I would use that money. And then when I wanted to request, when I requested the money, I also requested UKZN Finance to assist me to request my rewards from this other institution. So UKZN Finance said I must communicate with the research office of this institution. So I communicated with the research office, and they said my research rewards are there, and they were also aware of the second paper that also was supposed to. I was also supposed to get research rewards for the second paper as well. So they were preparing all that for me, but they said I could only access the rewards on condition that I'm an associate. And they wanted to know whether I'm an associate. I said, no, I'm not an associate, but they said it's easy. You can apply to be an associate. So I made an application, or I said, I don't know, to whom can I apply for this associate? And then they said, they gave me 2 names of the senior management. I think one of them was a deputy dean.
Elliot,
yes.
Sorry to disturb you. I am conscious of time. We have 5 minutes left in the
let me just
so if you
summarize.
have summarize in relation to stress and burnout and
yes,
in the context of Shanazia.
So I made an application, and then they wanted an extensive CV. I submitted the CV, and I also mentioned that I'm still doing my PhD. And then the response was that I cannot become an associate because I do not have a PhD. So which means I can't get my rewards. So that became another obstacle for me. So now I don't know how to actually escalate this if possible, because the Department of Higher Education provided this money, and it's the money that I'm supposed to use, but the institution is creating barriers for me. So that's the only
Elliot, I'm
problem
so
I have.
sorry.
Yes.
Elliot, can I just step in? I am not in a position to help you with the situation. I think that this platform is probably not the right one for you to raise this topic. I'm sure there are other people that you can connect with. But I would maybe suggest that you speak to, who would that be, Lenine and Willie? Who can he direct his query to? Who should he be speaking to?
Willie at UKZN.
So, I think it's important that somebody hears the entire challenge that Elliot is experiencing, so it can be contextualized. And then we could decide exactly who is going to be able to address that. It's very difficult to say that, refer to a certain place, because those referrals could just be sending him on a wild goose chase. So, and it's the same. I see Yonella also indicated that you try to reach out. So I am not certain what has happened, but I placed my direct email on. So rather than writing to SSS at this point in time, that write directly through to me, we'll schedule an appointment, and we could chat about it, and then we could look at a way forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
so
Elliot,
much
for sharing. And I'm really sorry that we can't address it in this platform. But please know that we hear you and something will be done. Okay, so we have 3 minutes left. I told you guys that I will just carry on, and I'm so far from reaching the last stage of this discussion. But what I want to leave you with are a couple of things that you can do to alert yourself to what's happening with you. And I think that's the catchphrase. You need to be aware of what's happening with you. So for a lot of us who work in high pressure environments in the public health sector, and even in the private sector, it's a lot of pressure to perform. And the performance requirement doesn't end at the end of our day of work. It extends into when we go home. So we have relationships and responsibilities there. But one of the important things that oftentimes we, and especially now in the age of technology, is we want to work at rest. That's the correct term, actually. It's to win at rest. So, for example, let's say I want to take the afternoon off because I'm really stressed and I've booked a spa treatment. I will come in at 6 o'clock to finish all the work without a break, and then rush off to my spa treatment. That is counterproductive, because the idea is that you're going into an environment that's going to nurture you, that's going to make you feel better. And so we're going in there already in this highly stressed state, which means that the impact of that positive, relaxing, nurturing experience is going to be minimized, because we'll only feel it later on once our stress levels have returned to an acceptable level, which might not even happen in that state. The other important thing is, make sure that you make a list for yourself. Don't keep things in your mind or try to remember, I mustn't forget to do this, I mustn't forget to do that, because what happens, it's like saying, I'm running out the door because I need to get to my car, I need to get to work in time, and your sleeve catches on the door. So it's like it's holding you back, and you know you need to get there, but you can't move because your sleeve is stuck on the door handle. And unless you remove your sleeve, you'll be able to go. So please get things out of your mind, put it on paper, just a scrap piece of paper, just so you don't keep it in here, so that your mind is free to address the needs, the priorities of what you need to do in the moment. Another important thing is be mindful. Mindfulness isn't you sitting there and going, oh, mindfulness is just being aware of what's happening to me now. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I using your senses? So, for example, in my work when I'm counseling students, it's no matter how many students you have in a day, you could get yourself into a ritual to say, right, I'm closing the file of Shanaz because I now need to see Lenine. And so you take a few seconds just to close off your chapter with Shanaz, and be ready for your chapter with Lenine, because otherwise what happens is you bring into the session with Lenine. Same with patients, the same with different meetings and presentations. Make sure that you are mindful. Keep that as a focus always. You can't just keep moving. Mindfulness is always about grounding myself into where I am now, closing off, as metaphorically, closing off the one so that I can start the other. And then the other important thing is make time for relaxation and make it count. So what we need to do is change the messaging. I'm not taking a break so that I can rest, because we feel guilty because there's so much to do. We have this deficit mindset. There's so much to do. I haven't done this yet. If I don't do this on time, I'm going to be penalized. Rather, when you're thinking about taking a bit of time out so that you can recover, call it that. It's my recovery time, or it's my focus time, or it's my re-energizing time. So again, it's about prioritizing yourself, being aware of what are the things that stress me out, because stress accumulates, and so it becomes more and more, and then fatigue, and then exhaustion, and then burnout. You don't just suddenly wake up one day and I'm burnt out. Okay, Lenine, I'm really, really aware of the time. I'm very happy. Let me just share my details. I'm very happy for anybody to want a follow-up session, or if they want to contact me, or maybe, let me just...
Or maybe we should absolutely invite you on another session, because this content was absolutely informative and relevant, and especially at this time of the year. I've got a desk surrounded by comments. What am I going to learn today? Work-life harmony. I love that concept about restoration. You know, it's not you just relaxing and that's it. This is you working on yourself, and we shouldn't feel bad about that.
Absolutely.
That's another one I'm taking home as well today. So thank you so much for your time. The content is so very relevant to this block of ours dedicated to roadblocks to personal and academic success. And mental health is, it shouldn't be taken lightly. I mean, it should be front and center. We need to look after ourselves to help others, to help ourselves even better, to help our degrees, to help our development. We should be putting ourselves first. I see your contact details on the screen over there. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Thank you very much to the participants for engaging with us today. And our next session is also continuing within this block of where are we? Mental health, yes. So next week we'll be having a discussion titled Mental Health First Aid Kit. So really teasing out the importance of mental health in our productivity. Shinaz, Willie, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your concepts. Thank you for your investment in this community. Thank you. And thank you to all participants for engaging with us today. This has been quite an interactive session, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
all.
Bye.
Thank